Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And a very good day to everyone. Alhamdulillah, today we've come to the final class for UMC 463, Meet Your Microbes. And inshallah, today we're going to focus on the last topic, which is fungi, its characteristics, its classifications, and its importance. Hopefully by the end of today, you would be able to do two things. The first, you'll be able to describe the basic characteristics and classification of fungi. And secondly, you'll be able to demonstrate an understanding regarding its beneficial roles and clinical significance. So in a nutshell, you'll be able to explain what fungi are, and you'll be able to explain why they matter. So let us start with fungi characteristics. Let's start with a quick definition. Fungi are eukaryotic organisms that include yeast, molds, and mushroom. They form a kingdom of their own, which is separate from plants and animals. And in terms of where they are, they're practically everywhere. They're ubiquitous in nature. You can find them in the soil, you can find them in the air, they're all around us. Fungi, like any other microorganisms, are very unique and they're fascinating in their own way. They are eukaryotes, which means they have a nucleus and they have organelles, but they're not plants because they cannot photosynthesize. Having said that, they're not animals either, so that makes it quite unique. They've got a cell wall, and this particular cell wall is made out of chitin, which is a tough material that you can actually see inside insect shells. This gives them support and this gives them strength. In terms of size, fungi ranges from a few micrometers to several millimeters, and some can be larger than that. With that respect, obviously, fungi are much more larger than bacteria and viruses. So much so, you can actually see them. They're visible as colonies and you can see macroscopic structures associated with fungi. This makes them relatively easy to detect and relatively easy to study in the lab. Fungi are heterotrophic, which means they are not self-sufficient. Unlike plants, they cannot make their own food via photosynthesis, and instead, they heavily depend on absorbing the nutrients from the surroundings. Many are symbionts, and many are saprophytes, which live on dead and decaying matter. They don't just live, but they also act as natural recyclers by recycling back the nutrients and giving it back to the environment, maintaining a very healthy ecosystem. So now, let's meet the fungi. Fungi can be broadly categorized into three main groups, namely yeast, molds, and mushrooms. Firstly, let's start with yeast. Yeast are unicellular, which means they are single-cell organisms. They're small, they're spherical, and they reproduce via budding. Examples of yeast include Saccharomyces, which is more commonly known as our friendly baker's yeast. Secondly, let's move on to molds. Molds, unlike yeast, are not unicellular, they're multicellular. And molds are made out of tiny filaments, which we call hyphae. Hyphae, when they're grouped together, or a mass of hyphae, is what we term mycelium. And this mycelium can be easily observed because they've got this very unique structure that looks like thread. Examples of molds include penicillium and aspergillus. And lastly, mushrooms. Mushrooms, just like molds, are multicellular. And mushrooms are special because they're big, they're visible, so much so, they're termed as macrofungi. In terms of habitat, mushrooms are found growing above the ground or mainly among decaying woods. Let's move on to the next topic, which is fungi classifications. First and foremost, before we delve further, let me ask you this question. Why is there a need to classify fungi? Well, the answer is simple because fungi is a big, diverse group of organisms, is a kingdom of its own. So there is a need to classify so that things are much more ordered, much more organized, much more systematic. And by being systematic, this will help to facilitate studies on fungal biology, studies on ecology, studies on evolutionary relationships. And this indirect will catalyze more research towards its conservation and utilization of fungi. So this is the major taxonomic grouping within the kingdom of fungi. So the major fungal phyla comprise of Zygomycota, Ascomycota, Basidiomycota, Chytridiomycota, and Deuteromycota. So firstly, Zygomycota. Zygomycota are your typical bread molds. They only represent a small phylum of fungi, but generally they're very popular because everybody has seen bread molds before. Examples of Zygomycota include Rhizopus, which is a group of fungi that is responsible for food spoilage, typically on bread and on fruits. Zygomycota are fast-growing and spread by spores. The second group of fungophyla is Ascomycota. Ascomycota are commonly known as your sac fungi, and are the largest and most diverse phylum of the kingdom of fungi. They play an important role in food and fermentation. Examples include Saccharomyces, Penicillium, and Aspergillus. The next fungal group of phyla is your Basidiomycota. Basidiomycota are commonly known as your club fungi, and this includes your mushrooms. Some are edible and some are not, so you've got to be careful about that. Examples of mushrooms belonging to the group of Basidiomycota include your butter mushrooms, shiitake mushrooms, your oyster mushrooms, and your portobello mushrooms. In addition, there are also other fungal groups including Chytridiomycota and Deuteromycota. Chytridiomycota, or commonly known as chytrids, are primarily aquatic and can be found in soil and decaying organic matter. Deuteromycota, on the other hand, are commonly known as fungi imperfecti, which is a group of fungi characterized by the absence of known sexual reproduction stage in their life cycle, examples of which include Candida. So that's it for the first part of today's lecture. As a quick recap, hopefully you would be able to appreciate the following information. Number 1, fungi are eukaryotes, which means it's got a nucleus and it's got organelles, but they're neither plant nor animals. Number 2, fungi have a cell wall in the form of chitin. Number 3, fungi can be categorized into 3 groups, which are yeast, molds, and mushrooms. They can be unicellular, like yeast, or multicellular, like molds and mushroom. And lastly, fungi can be further classified into bread molds, sac fungi, club fungi, and others. So hopefully you're ready to meet the good guys and bad guys of the fungal world. So let us start with some positive vibes. Let us explore the beneficial roles of fungi. Well, there's many. Fungi play an important role in medicine production, in food production, in agriculture, biotechnology, environmental recycling, and as a direct food source. Now let's talk about the good side of fungi, starting with medicine production. But it all started in 1928 when Alexander Fleming made a breakthrough. He discovered penicillin from the mold Penicillium, and it was used for antibiotics. Another example of the good sides of fungi from a medical perspective is the cyclosporin drug. Cyclosporin is an immunosuppressant drug that is used to treat rejection among organ transplant, and that is also from fungi. Fungi plays a very important role in food and beverages businesses because yeasts are used in bread making and brewing alcoholic beverages. Without yeast, you won't get your pizza. Without yeast, you won't get your bread. So they're very, very important, and molds are also used in cheese production. For agricultural production, there are certain fungi that can help plants absorb nutrients and can help plants absorb water. This does not only help the plant to grow, but it also improves its survival rate. Fungi are also used in manufacturing of many enzymes, including amylase and protease, organic acids, including citric acid and lactic acid, as well as the vitamins as well. And fungi are natural recyclers. They're natural decomposers that break down organic matter, recycling nutrients and giving it back to the ecosystem. And lastly, as your food source, because there's many wonderful, delightful, delicious edible mushrooms that are very nutritious as well. They're rich in protein, they're rich in fiber, they're rich in vitamins and minerals, and this includes your oyster mushroom, shiitake mushrooms, and your portobello mushrooms as well. But obviously fungi can cause infections, so now let us look into the clinical significance of fungi. Fungi can cause a wide range of infections in humans, plants, and animals. Fungi that causes infections are termed pathogenic fungi, and infections caused by fungi are termed mycosis. Mycosis ranges from either being superficial skin infections to much severe systemic illnesses. Pathogenic fungi can cause infections including athlete's foot, ringworm, and candidiasis. It can cause allergic reactions because the mold spores can trigger asthma, allergies, and respiratory problems. And fungi can become opportunistic. In particular, aspergillosis and cryptococcosis can cause life-threatening infections, particularly in immunocompromised patients, such as patients suffering from AIDS, from cancer therapy, from organ transplants, and those infected by opportunistic fungi has high morbidity and mortality rates. So it's quite severe. Fungal infections compared to bacterial ones can be more persistent, more difficult to eradicate, and more prone to recurrence. And when you want to compare the availability of antibiotics versus antifungal drugs, well, there's fewer antifungal drugs that are available, and some, such as amphotericin B, have high toxicity rates. Now there's an emerging trend of resistance of fungus towards antifungal drug, and this complicates treatment. And furthermore, there's also this diagnostic challenge whereby fungal infections can also mimic bacterial and viral diseases, making lab diagnosis more intricate. Food spoilage caused by fungi can cause health issues and can cause economic loss. So molds that grows on bread, on fruits, and your food products can reduce shelf life and cause waste. Another thing that's actually quite scary is the production of toxins by fungi, and we call this mycotoxin. Aspergillus, for instance, can produce aflatoxins, which are toxic and carcinogenic when ingested. And lastly, pathogenic fungi can cause crop diseases, it destroys crops, and it can reduce agricultural yield. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we've now come to the end of the lecture. As a quick recap, hopefully you have learned the fact that fungi have beneficial roles, they are sources of antibiotics, they're sources of food products, and they're widely used for biotechnology applications. They've got strong ecological impact, whereby fungi are natural recyclers, natural decomposers of organic matters. They give back the nutrients to the ecosystem, maintaining balance. Nevertheless, they also cause harmful infections, allergies, food spoilage, and crop diseases. And they have been linked with economic loss because of the reduced crop yields, the food wastage, and the costly medical treatments associated with fungal infections. So before I end, remember this: fungi are silent, adaptable, and essential, shaping the ecosystem, shaping our health, and shaping our daily life. So that's it for Fungi 101. It's a wrap. And this also marks the end of UMC 463 Meet Your Microbes. Alhamdulillah, we've all gone through the journey of discovery of bacteria, viruses, and fungi. And in all essence, mission accomplished, you have indeed met your microbes. So on behalf of all the teaching instructors, we hope that you have gained more insight, and we hope that this course has sparked more curiosity for you to want to learn more and more about the amazing world of microbes. Last but not least, on behalf of all the teaching instructors, we would like to say thank you very much for joining the course and for showing your commitment. Should you want to contact us further, please do not hesitate to email us. We'll be very happy to assist. So thank you once again. We wish you all best wishes, and we hope to see you in a different platform. Take care. Assalamualaikum.